The siren pierced the quiet night of Bayport, a bustling coastal city in California, where neon signs illuminated streets filled with hidden corners. Under the flickering light of a 24/7 gas station, Judge Alicia Harper, 42, stood tall, her sharp eyes locked on the two approaching police officers. Her navy blue business suit hugged her elegant frame, a black leather briefcase resting beside the gas pump of her silver SUV. She was on her way to a national legal conference downtown, never imagining that this moment would change everything. "You there? Show me your ID now." The voice of the young officer, whose badge read Officer Ryan Carter, rang out with authority laced with contempt. Beside him, Officer Daniel Brooks, a stocky man with shifty eyes, held a radio, eyeing Alicia as if she were a threat. "I'm Judge Alicia Harper, Federal District Court. My ID is in my purse. Let me get it," she replied, her voice calm but carrying the weight of someone accustomed to standing before a courtroom. She reached for her purse, but Carter grabbed her arm, causing her to stumble. "Don't try anything," Carter growled, his tone dripping with suspicion. "You think we're that easy to fool? A judge? Ha, creative. Probably fake ID, right?" Alicia's brow furrowed, suppressing the anger rising within her. As an African-American woman, she was all too familiar with this tone, the tone she'd heard in countless cases, in the testimonies of victims discriminated against for their skin color. In her 12 years as a judge, she'd faced skeptical looks and whispers that someone like her didn't belong in positions of power. "I demand you check my ID immediately." "It's my right," she said, her voice still steady but sharp as a blade. Brooks smirked, stepping closer, his handcuffs glinting under the neon lights. "Rights? You're in our hands, lady. Fake IDs are a dime a dozen. Let's go to the station and sort this out." Without giving her a chance to respond, Brooks twisted her arms behind her back, snapping the cuffs tightly around her wrists. The pain was sharp, but Alicia didn't cry out. She knew any sign of weakness would be exploited. At the gas station, a few passers-by stopped, some discreetly pulling out their phones to record. A young woman in a gas station uniform stood behind the cashier counter, her hands trembling as she held her phone. Her name was Emmeline Gwynn, 19, a student working part-time to pay for college. She sensed the wrongness of the situation and decided to record everything, her heart pounding with fear. At Bayport's Precinct 5, the cold fluorescent lights illuminated the smug faces of Carter and Brooks. They shoved Alicia into a small room reeking of stale cigarettes and sweat. Another officer, Sergeant Michael Torres, who had just started his shift, entered and surveyed the scene with suspicion. "What's the charge?" Torres asked, his gaze flickering over Alicia, who stood upright, unflinching. "Impersonating an official, boss," Carter replied, tossing Alicia's purse onto the table. "She claims she's a judge, even had a fake badge in her bag. Criminals are getting bold these days." Alicia took a deep breath, maintaining the composure honed by years in court. "Sergeant, I am Judge Alicia Harper, Federal District Court. I demand to make a phone call now. If you don't believe me, check my badge and ID. The Chief Judge's contact is in my phone." Carter burst out laughing, slamming his hand on the table. "Chief Judge? You've got a silver tongue. Call whoever you want, but you're not getting out of this. Probably calling your accomplice, huh, boss?" Torres, however, didn't laugh. Something in Alicia's gaze unnerved him. It wasn't fear or anger. It was an unshakable certainty that twisted his gut. He pushed the landline toward her. 5 minutes, he said, his voice low. Carter and Brooks exchanged glances, confident this was just another bluff. Alicia dialed a number she knew by heart. After 3 rings, a deep, authoritative voice answered. "Chief Judge Robert Coleman speaking." "Chief Judge, this is Judge Alicia Harper. I'm being held at Bayport Precinct 5 on charges of impersonation. The officers refused to verify my identity and publicly handcuffed me." Her voice remained calm, each word cutting like a knife. The line went silent for a moment. Then Coleman's voice turned icy. "Put the person in charge on." Sergeant Torres took the phone, and within seconds, his face drained of color. Carter and Brooks sensed the shift in the air, their smug grins fading. "Yes, Chief Judge." "Immediately, sir." Torres stammered, sweat beading on his forehead. No one in the precinct knew that Alicia Harper was no ordinary judge. For the past 3 years, she had secretly led a task force codenamed Justice Shield. investigating cases of police abuse and institutional racism. This incident wasn't just a personal injustice. It was the spark that would ignite a storm. "Uncuff her now," Torres barked, his voice trembling. Carter and Brooks, though reluctant, complied, their eyes now a mix of fear and resentment. Alicia rubbed her wrists, the red marks etched deep into her skin. She locked eyes with Torres, saying nothing, but her gaze was a verdict in itself. Outside, the crowd had grown larger. Emily's video, uploaded to X, was spreading like wildfire, with hashtags like #JusticeForAlicia trending. But unbeknownst to all, a darker secret lurked within Precinct 5, a protection racket tied to illegal activities, with Carter and Brooks as mere pawns. Alicia, without realizing it, had just lit the fuse for a battle that would shake the city to its core. As the handcuffs came off, Alicia Harper stood tall in the small room at Bayport Precinct 5, her eyes never leaving Sergeant Michael Torres. The red marks on her wrists stung, but she refused to let the pain break her focus. Outside, the noise of the growing crowd mingled with police sirens and angry whispers. Emmeline Wynn's video had racked up thousands of shares on X within an hour, with #JusticeForAlicia becoming a rallying cry. Inside, the tension was palpable. Officers Ryan Carter and Daniel Brooks stood in a corner, their eyes flickering between fear and defiance. They knew they'd made a mistake, but their arrogance clung to the hope that this was just a minor hiccup, that the system would shield them as it always had. They didn't know that Alicia was the head of Justice Shield, a task force that had spent 3 years gathering evidence of police misconduct. This incident was the spark for a much larger reckoning. Sergeant Torres, still pale from his call with Chief Judge Coleman, tried to regain control. "Judge Harper," he began, his voice shaky, "we deeply regret this incident. We were following protocol. I hope you understand there was no intent." "Don't." Alicia cut him off, her voice cold and sharp. "Don't talk to me about protocol when you didn't bother to check my ID. Don't call this an incident when you handcuffed me in public because of my skin color. I don't need your apologies. I need accountability." Torres swallowed hard, avoiding her gaze. He knew better than anyone that Precinct 5 wasn't just a law enforcement hub. It was part of a sophisticated protection racket, where officers like Carter and Brooks took bribes to turn a blind eye to illegal activities, from drug trafficking to underground casinos. Alicia, though unaware of the full extent, had just stumbled into their web, making her a threat far greater than Torres could fathom. Outside, Emmeline Gwynn stood among the crowd, clutching her phone. Her video on X was flooded with comments, from calls for justice to threats from anonymous accounts. "Delete the video or face consequences," one message read. Her heart raced, but she didn't delete it. She knew she'd done the right thing, even if the cost was steep. Meanwhile, in a luxury hotel a few miles from the precinct, Alicia sat in her room, eyes fixed on her phone. She'd just finished a video call with her legal assistant, James Carter, no relation to Officer Carter, a sharp young man who'd worked with her for 5 years. "Judge Harper, this isn't just a wrongful arrest," James said, his voice laced with concern. "I checked the records of these 2 officers. Ryan Carter has 9 complaints of excessive force in the past 3 years, all buried. Daniel Brooks is worse. There are rumors he's tied to a protection racket at the port. We're touching something much bigger." Alicia nodded, her hand grazing her still-sore wrists. "Activate the Justice Shield protocol, James. I need full records on Carter and Brooks, plus any intel on Precinct 5's internal operations. And contact Chief Judge Coleman. We'll need his support." James hesitated, his eyes betraying worry. "Judge, if we dig too deep, it's dangerous. The people behind this aren't the type to back down. They might retaliate." Alicia gave a faint smile, her gaze unwavering. "They picked the wrong person to cuff, James. If they want to fight, I'll give them one." At the precinct, a clandestine meeting unfolded in Lieutenant Victor Salazar's office, Torres's direct superior. Salazar, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair and eyes sharp as a blade, was the linchpin of the protection racket. He glared at his computer screen, where Emily's video played on loop, and slammed his fist on the desk. "Who let this happen?" Salazar roared, his eyes sweeping over Torres, Carter, and Brooks, who stood with bowed heads like scolded children. "A federal judge? How stupid do you have to be to cuff her in front of a crowd?" "We didn't know she was a real judge, sir," Carter stammered. She didn't look. Shut up. Salazar snapped, his voice venomous. You've put the whole city's eyes on us. And if she's who Coleman says she is, we're in deep trouble. Shut this down, whatever it takes. Torres, though terrified, spoke up. Sir, the video's gone viral. Hashtag Justice for Alicia is trending nationwide on X. If we try to suppress it, it'll only make things worse. Salazar's eyes narrowed, a cold smile creeping across his lips. Then we don't suppress it. We redirect. Find the girl who filmed it. She's the gas station clerk, right? Make her shut up. And if Harper keeps digging, give her a reason to stop. Alicia, meanwhile, didn't rest. She photographed the marks on her wrists, sending them to James for the Justice Shield files. She knew this wasn't just a personal incident. It was a chance to expose a rotten system. Over 3 years, Justice Shield had documented 412 similar cases. People of color, from lawyers to doctors, treated like criminals because of their appearance. Most victims, fearing retaliation or distrusting the system, stayed silent. But Alicia wouldn't. She contacted Emily via an encrypted message. Ms. Nguyen, this is Alicia Harper. Your video is crucial. I need to speak with you immediately, but it must be discreet. Can you meet me at the Grand Bay Hotel at 10 p.m. tonight? Emily, sitting in her small apartment, read the message with her heart pounding. She knew she was stepping into danger, but the image of Alicia in handcuffs had awakened something in her, a refusal to accept injustice. She replied, I'll be there. As night fell, Emily left her apartment, unaware that a car without plates was silently tailing her. At the precinct, Carter and Brooks received direct orders from Salazar. Make Emily delete the video, by words or by force. But they didn't know that Alicia was prepared. She'd installed a tracking app on her phone, sharing her location with James, and had a private security team on standby. This fight wasn't just about justice. It was becoming a matter of life and death. Night draped Bayport like a heavy curtain, punctuated only by neon lights and the distant crash of waves. Alicia Harper sat in a secluded corner of the Grand Bay Hotel's cafe, her sharp eyes scanning the entrance. She wore a dark hoodie, a stark contrast to her usual business suit, to avoid attention. Her phone sat on the table, displaying a tracking app linked to James Carter. Every few seconds, she checked for messages, awaiting Emily Nguyen's confirmation. Emily hurried along the sidewalk, her heart racing. She'd swapped her uniform for an old jacket and a baseball cap to hide her face, but the feeling of being watched made her glance back repeatedly. The car without plates she'd spotted minutes earlier had vanished into an alley, but she still felt invisible eyes on her. The threatening message on X, delete the video or face consequences, echoed in her mind, but she pressed on. The image of Judge Harper in handcuffs was etched in her, and she couldn't turn back. At Precinct 5, Lieutenant Victor Salazar sat in his office, his cold gaze fixed on a surveillance monitor. One of his lackeys, a young officer named Ethan Reed, reported that Emily had left her apartment and was heading downtown. Salazar nodded, signaling Reed to contact Carter and Brooks. Don't let her reach Harper, he ordered, his voice low and sharp. And if Harper keeps digging, send her a clear message. Carter and Brooks, now cornered, had no choice but to obey. They knew Salazar's protection racket extended beyond the precinct, involving powerful figures from casino owners to city officials. If Alicia exposed the truth, their careers, and the entire network, would collapse. The gas station girl is the weakest link, Brooks muttered, gripping the steering wheel as they tailed Emily. Scare her enough, and she'll shut up. In the cafe, Alicia saw Emily enter, her face pale but her eyes resolute. She motioned for Emily to sit at the corner table, away from the windows. Thank you for coming, Emily, Alicia said, her voice low but warm. I know this isn't easy. Emily nodded, her trembling hands placing her phone on the table. I don't know what I'm getting into, Judge Harper. But after seeing how they treated you, I couldn't stand by. The video, it's got over 1 million views on X already. Alicia gave a faint smile, but her eyes were alert. Your video is critical evidence, Emily, but it's also made you a target. I need you to tell me exactly what you saw, and if anyone's contacted or threatened you, I need to know. Emily took a deep breath, recounting the moment she saw Carter and Brooks cuff Alicia, mocking her demands to check her ID. She mentioned the threatening message and the suspicious car without plates. Alicia listened, mentally noting the details, realizing this wasn't just racial profiling. It was a sign of a larger conspiracy. Emily, I lead a task force called Justice Shield, Alicia said, her voice low. We've documented 412 similar cases of abuse over 3 years. But Precinct 5 seems to be the heart of something bigger, a protection racket. Have you noticed anything unusual at the gas station? Strange cars, secret meetings? Emily hesitated, then nodded. A few times. I saw Carter and Brooks come by at night, meeting a man in a truck. They weren't in uniform, but I recognized them. They exchanged something. I'm not sure what. But once I heard them mention Salazar and money. Alicia's hands tightened, sensing a puzzle piece falling into place. Lieutenant Victor Salazar, a name she'd seen in Justice Shield files, linked to suspiciously dismissed complaints. But before she could ask more, her phone buzzed. A message from James. Someone's watching the hotel. Car without plates, parked at the corner. Be careful. Alicia instantly pulled Emily under the table as a figure appeared outside the cafe window. It was Carter, his eyes cold, hand on his holster. Stay here, Alicia whispered, signaling Emily to stay quiet. She sent an urgent message to her private security team, reporting her location and requesting immediate backup. But things escalated when Brooks stormed into the cafe, his eyes scanning the room. He didn't spot Alicia and Emily hiding, but his voice carried as he called someone. Boss, the gas station girl's here. Harper might be close. What now? Salazar's voice crackled through the phone's speaker, cold and clear. Drag her out. Use force if needed. And if Harper shows up, make her understand the cost of meddling. Alicia's blood boiled. She wasn't just facing 2 corrupt officers. She was challenging a system guarded by those willing to do anything to keep their secrets. She gripped Emily's hand, whispering, When I signal, run to the back door. My security team will meet you. Don't stop, no matter what. Emily nodded, her eyes teary but resolute. Alicia counted down silently, then stood, confronting Brooks directly. Officer Brooks, she said loudly, drawing his attention. I think you and your partner should leave before this gets worse. Brooks flinched, his hand grazing his holster, but Alicia's icy, fearless gaze made him hesitate. In that moment, Emily bolted for the back door as planned. But as she reached the alley, a gunshot rang out, making both Alicia and Brooks whip around. In the alley, Alicia's security team had intercepted the car without plates, and a tense standoff was unfolding. Carter, realizing the plan had failed, tried to flee but was subdued by the team. Alicia, seizing the chaos, pulled Brooks aside and said, her voice low but commanding, Tell Salazar the game's over. I have evidence, and I won't stop until your entire network is exposed. Brooks, pale and speechless, froze. Distant sirens wailed, but this time, they were Alicia's allies, Justice Shield members mobilized by Chief Judge Coleman. Emily was whisked to safety, but she knew she'd stepped into a war far bigger than she'd imagined. The gunshot in the alley outside the Grand Bay Hotel still echoed in Alicia Harper's mind as she sat in a safe room, guarded by her private security team. Emmeline Gwynn, trembling but safe, sat across from her, her eyes still burning with determination despite the harrowing night. The security team had apprehended Officer Ryan Carter and the driver of the unmarked car, Ethan Reed, a lackey of Lieutenant Victor Salazar. But Officer Daniel Brooks had slipped away in the chaos, and Alicia knew the danger was far from over. Emily's video had now surpassed 5 million views on X, with hashtag #JusticeForAlicia trending nationwide. Local and national news outlets replayed the footage, accompanied by commentaries on racial profiling and police corruption. Online forums buzzed with thousands sharing their own stories of unjust treatment by police, targeted for their race or background. Alicia's case had ignited a social movement, but it also threatened the protection racket Salazar ran. At Precinct 5, the air was thick with tension. Salazar, in his sealed office, slammed his fist on the desk as he watched the news. Alicia's face filled the screen, with the headline, Federal Judge Handcuffed. Is this the tipping point for police corruption? He turned to Sergeant Michael Torres, who stood sweating, head bowed. We've lost control, Salazar growled. Carter's in custody, Reed's caught, and Brooks is missing. If Harper and that gas station girl keep going, our entire network will collapse. Who's backing her? The FBI? The DOJ? Torres shook his head, his voice trembling. I don't know, sir. But Chief Judge Coleman called the precinct directly. He's demanding an internal investigation immediately. And there's talk that Harper's task force has been gathering evidence for 3 years. They might have recordings, body cam footage. Salazar clenched his fists, his eyes darkening. Find Brooks. He knows too much. And prepare a contingency plan. If Harper wants war, we'll give her a reason to regret it. Meanwhile, Alicia and James Carter held an urgent video call with Chief Judge Coleman. James, laptop open, presented part of the Justice Shield files. 412 documented cases of abuse, 289 involving people of color, with 67% occurring in or near Precinct 5's jurisdiction. A chart on the screen showed a spike in dismissed complaints over the past 2 years, coinciding with Salazar's tenure as commander. We have enough to launch a federal investigation, Coleman said, his voice firm. But Alicia, you need to understand that people like Salazar don't operate alone. His network might involve high-ranking city officials. You're putting yourself in danger. Alicia nodded, her gaze steady. I know, Chief Judge, but if we don't act now, people like Emily and hundreds of others will keep being crushed by this system. I'm ready to pay the price. After the call, Alicia met Emily in the safe room. The young woman, calmer now, still clutched her phone like a lifeline. Judge Harper, I just got a message from the gas station manager, Emily said, her voice shaky. They fired me. They said I damaged the company's reputation by posting the video. Alicia placed a hand on Emily's shoulder, her voice warm but resolute. They're wrong, Emily. You did the right thing, and I'll make sure you're protected. Justice Shield will support you, legally and financially. And I promise, those behind this will pay. But Alicia's promise was soon tested. The next morning, a press conference was held at the Bayport Federal District Court. Alicia, flanked by Coleman and Justice Shield lawyers, presented evidence of the 412 abuse cases. A large screen played Emily's video, followed by body cam audio from Carter and Brooks, with Brooks saying, "Turn off the camera, Carter. If she's really someone important, we don't want a record." The room erupted with reporters' questions. Judge Harper, do you believe this is part of a larger conspiracy within the police force? One asked. Alicia looked into the cameras. This isn't an isolated incident. It's evidence of a rotten system where power protects the strong and crushes the weak. Today, we declare the era of silence is over. In a rundown apartment on Bayport's outskirts, Brooks watched the press conference, his hand trembling around a beer bottle. His phone was flooded with messages from Salazar, ordering him to keep his mouth shut or face consequences. But Brooks knew he was out of options. He'd seen Carter arrested, Reed interrogated, and the nation's eyes on Precinct 5. In desperation, he did something unthinkable. He contacted an anonymous journalist on X, offering information about Salazar in exchange for protection. Meanwhile, Salazar learned the FBI had opened a formal investigation into Precinct 5. In a panic, he ordered another lackey, ex-cop Marcus Tate, to destroy all evidence of the protection racket. But Tate, sensing the ship sinking, secretly backed up the files and sent them to a Justice Shield encrypted email with a note, "I don't want to die for Salazar." As news of the FBI investigation spread, #JusticeForAlicia sparked protests outside Precinct 5. Hundreds, from students to activists, held signs demanding police reform. Emily, invited by Alicia to a community meeting, spoke, her voice trembling but strong. "I'm just a gas station clerk, but I saw something wrong, and I couldn't stay silent. If we don't stand up, who will?" The press conference at the Bayport Federal District Court had ended, but its impact rippled like a tidal wave across the city and nation. Alicia Harper stood before a throng of reporters, her voice resolute as she unveiled Justice Shield's irrefutable evidence. Emily Nguyen's video, now exceeding 10 million views on X, had become a symbol of the fight against injustice and corruption. But Alicia knew this victory came at a cost, one that still hung in the air. In the safe room, Emily sat with James Carter, Alicia's legal assistant. Still shaken from the alley confrontation, her eyes burned with newfound resolve. "Judge Harper, I never thought filming that video would lead to this," she said, her voice trembling but proud. "But if I hadn't, who would?" Alicia smiled, resting a hand on Emily's shoulder. "You changed everything, Emily. Not just for me, but for thousands. Your action gave them the courage to speak. Even as #Justice for Alicia grew, danger loomed. A week after the press conference, Alicia received an anonymous message: "Stop, or your family will pay." She forwarded it to James, ordering increased security for her teenage son, who lived with her mother in Bayport suburbs. She knew Salazar's network wouldn't relent, but retreating wasn't an option. Daniel Brooks, after cooperating with the FBI, revealed details of Salazar's protection racket, admitting it involved not just casino bribes, but ties to a prominent city council member. His testimony, combined with Tate's leaked files, paved the way for a massive federal investigation. The FBI arrested 3 more high-ranking officials, and Precinct 5 was placed under special oversight. Ryan Carter, in custody awaiting trial, cracked under pressure. During an interrogation, he confessed his role in abuse cases and revealed Salazar's orders to deal with Alicia if she kept digging. These confessions, alongside body cam recordings and Justice Shield's files, were undeniable. 6 months later, at the California Supreme Court, Alicia presented Justice Shield's final report to a panel of federal judges. She revealed the numbers: 412 documented abuse cases, 289 involving people of color, with 85% resulting in no consequences for the officers. A chart displayed a spike in dismissed complaints during Salazar's tenure at Precinct 5. "These numbers aren't just statistics," Alicia said, her voice echoing in the hall. "They're stories of people stripped of dignity, crushed by a system because of who they are. Today, we say, justice will not stay silent." The hall erupted in applause. Emily, now a law student funded by a scholarship Alicia created, sat in the front row, tears in her eyes. Beside her were other victims who'd found the courage to speak after Alicia's case. #Justice for Alicia sparked nationwide reforms, police training on bias, and a proposed law for officer accountability. Salazar was sentenced to 15 years for corruption, abuse of power, and organized crime. Carter and Reed received shorter terms, their reputations ruined. Brooks, under witness protection, moved to another city, haunted by his past. The gas station, under public pressure, apologized and reinstated Emily with compensation. One rainy afternoon, Alicia received a letter from Salazar in prison. "Judge Harper," he wrote, "I spent my life believing I was above the law. You proved me wrong. Your actions didn't just destroy my network, they made me face myself." Alicia folded the letter, offering no reply. Justice didn't need apologies, it needed action. A year later, Alicia was appointed director of a new federal judicial integrity agency. In her inauguration speech, she said, "When I was handcuffed that night, I could have chosen silence, using my position to escape. But I chose to fight, for those without a judge to call, without a camera to film. Justice isn't a gift, it's something we fight for." Emily, now a first-year law student, clapped among thousands. She'd found her purpose, inspired by Alicia to become a lawyer for justice. Other victims, once silent, formed support groups, sharing their stories and demanding change. At a law school lecture, a young black student asked, "Judge Harper, how did you overcome fear when facing that system?" Alicia smiled, her eyes shining with resilience. "Fear is inevitable when facing injustice. But I learned courage isn't the absence of fear, it's deciding something matters more. When you choose between comfortable silence and painful truth, choose truth. The strongest chains aren't on your wrists, they're on your voice." Alicia's story became part of law school curricula across the U.S. #Justice for Alicia didn't just change Bayport. It sparked a wave of reform nationwide. And in a quiet corner of the city, Emily Nguyen, once a gas station clerk, stood before a mirror in her first suit, ready to walk the path Alicia had paved.